All right, we're live. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of All About Aspen, a show that takes you into a hyper-local look of one of the most exclusive places on the planet, Aspen, Colorado. I am your host, LANDONLIKEAPLANE, and I'm coming to you from my living room, also known as my studio, aka Truscott Studios. And I am very excited for my guest today. Her name is Gaby Aratow. Is that how you say it, Gaby?
Yep, exactly.
Gaby Aratow. And Gaby and I just met. So why don't we talk a little bit about how we got to know each other. Gaby, how did you find the show?
I read about you in the Aspen Times, which happens to be a way that I have also had the Aspen Times write about me, and that brought a lot of people to knowing about me. So yay to the Aspen Times.
Excellent. Yeah, so I've been writing for the Aspen Times as one of my side projects, just like the podcast. It's in addition to my main business, which is Aspen Drone Company. I'm a drone pilot, a videographer, photographer, and I make social media reels and other digital content for businesses here in the Valley. And in that venture, I figured out how to create another opportunity where I'm writing for the Times. So I'm glad that you were able to see that article, and then you went ahead and reached out to me and offered to come on the show, which is very flattering to me personally to have a guest that's not somebody I actually already knew previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited to have you on the show here today, Gaby. Welcome to All About Aspen.
Thanks.
So we're going to get into what you do in just a moment, but before that, I did want to mention that I did get to do a little bit of research on you. I did a little background on you, and I read some of those articles that were written in the Times. And so I'm glad that you're able to draw some business and attention your way. I think that what you're up to here in the Valley is something that is noble, and if I have the ability to help contribute to helping your business become more successful, I'm definitely interested in doing that. So thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
And now we can briefly get into what is your business and how you're making an impact on both the Valley and the locals here in the Valley. So I'll start off, and then you can kind of elaborate on what I lay out for the audience here. So I saw that you are a matchmaker.
Yes.
And you are the only matchmaker here in this Roaring Fork Valley, and one of the only matchmakers in a mountain town.
Correct.
And so what's the name of your business, Gaby?
My business is called KIS, like Smooch Kiss, KIS. Some people maybe would think that's Keep It Simple. But it actually stands for Keeper Introduction Services. Like, you're my keeper, and I run the introduction service.
Okay, excellent. And so, brass tacks, you're helping pair people up with the idea that they would be a good fit together. Is that what I understand?
Correct. So the people who come to me are single, and they don't want to be single anymore, and I do my darndest to help them.
All right. And so in your estimation, how would you say, how is business going?
My business is going incredibly well. I'm actually sort of shocked. When I started this just about 10 years ago, March will be 10 years, I thought maybe I would last 6 weeks doing this. And now I'm a decade in, and it's my whole world. And every year my business gets bigger and better.
Well, that is fantastic news, especially for all of the lovers here in the Valley, all the single people who don't want to be single anymore, which I wouldn't necessarily say I have my finger on the pulse of single life here, but I am a single man in the Valley, and I got a lot of single friends in the Valley, and so I got to imagine that the singles outnumber the couples. What is your estimation on how many people in the Valley are single versus how many people have already been paired up?
That's an interesting question. I'd be so interested in some data on that. I can tell you that for the first time in America, we're seeing more single people than married people, and that's never been the case in our nation before, in terms of adults. So I would presume that this valley is, if not a reflection of that, maybe even more, because I'd say you're probably more likely, if you're living in Beaumont, Texas, there's I think a very strong impetus to marry your high school sweetheart, or maybe someone from college, or maybe someone from your first job. What's the impetus here? Not so much. So it wouldn't surprise me if the data came back that there were more single people in the Roaring Fork Valley than married people, but I don't know.
Sure, sure. Well, and I'm just asking you to take your best educated guess, given that you're dealing with the singles coming through. And I also, if I was just making a guess, would venture that there probably are more single people here in the valley than there are couples, which has got to be job security for you.
Well, you know, some people with AI coming, with AI coming, there's a lot of insecurity around jobs in general, I think. But I don't feel that AI can replace what I do, because so much of what I do is it's social. And I don't think that a machine's going to be able to do it in quite the same way that a human being can do it, but we shall see. But a lot of things people told me were going to take me out of business. People said COVID would take me out of business. My business grew. People say AI maybe is going to take you out of business. Since ChatGPT's grown and grown, all I've done is better and better business. So far nothing's taking down one of the oldest professions in the world, which is helping single people find a partner.
Well, and this is a great segue. So that led me to two questions I had listening to you there. First was, what do you mean? How would AI potentially disrupt your business? What AI are you referring to? And then in addition to that, once we get through that answer, how did you decide to become a matchmaker? That is a very intriguing question, I find.
Well, for the first question, I would say some people maybe could figure that there's simply an algorithm. You know, you put in it, and that kind of is what Match.com is. I mean, these dating sites are essentially algorithms, and they're failing almost everybody because they're really not working well, because they don't really face human desire and human delusion. And in the world of dating, there's a lot of desire and delusion to be contended with. So that I would say that that's one of the reasons that I don't see an algorithm being able to do this. Also, algorithms don't understand personality, at least not yet, and I'm not sure they really ever will. And then how I decided to do this, well, honestly, you know, the Dalai Lama says we should give to another what we want for ourselves, and I've always just really wanted love, and so when I realized that one could start doing this as a profession, I thought, oh, I'll try that. It's kind of in the world of my own yearnings and my own wishes, and it might be interesting to kind of jump on in and help other people. Just like if somebody, let us say, got diagnosed with a disease, and maybe I'm not saying that being single is a disease.
That's where I was going.
But just as an analogy, let's say you had gone through a disease, or you had a disease, and you realized that there was something of a calling in it for you to start reaching out to other people who are in your same boat, because being in that boat felt very big for you, and being single feels big to me. It feels like a extremely defining thing. And so I sort of was pulled into it in my interest in it, and wanting to connect with others who are in this boat, and wanting to see if I could help them, get to where they were going.
Excellent. All right, well, let's drill down into that just a little bit more. So what I heard you saying is that it was a calling, and that it was a calling to be of service and to be of contribution, which in my opinion is one of the highest callings you could have. And it's what I'm trying to do here with this show. I'm trying to be of my own version of contribution and service, trying to help contribute and give back in whatever way I'm able to do that. And so I want to acknowledge you and let you know that I think that it's admirable that you're trying to help us diseased singles find our way into love. And sometimes it does feel like we're diseased. And sometimes it does feel like we're a pariah, and that we are doomed and destined to be alone forever.
It can feel that way.
It sure can.
Yeah, it can also feel wonderful. I mean, that's the thing. Being single, there's nothing morally incorrect with being single, but there's something in the kind of zeitgeist, in the flavor of society, that begins to make you feel like there is, like that it's a problem. I mean, it isn't a problem. It's a perfectly acceptable thing to be.
Sure.
But we live in a world that really does seem to cater to coupling up.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's probably the natural evolution of how humans move through their lifetimes. Is eventually you're trying to find somebody to pair up with.
Yes.
That said, like to your point, I am totally okay with myself being single, and I have found my way to really enjoy my own company, and to not necessarily need or feel like I need to be with somebody for the sake of being with somebody.
Right.
Now, in your estimation, again, and the reason I'm asking, and clearly you're not like the end all be all answers. I'm sure there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but given the fact that your business involves trying to help people pair up,
Yes.
I'm just curious to see what your opinions on some of my questions are. So, would you say that men or women or both are more inclined to be okay being single? Or would you say that one of the two, like in my personal estimation, I feel like women tend to be desiring a relationship more so than maybe men. I know a lot of my friends, particularly here in these mountain towns, where I feel like, and again, I'd be interested to know your insight here, the ratio of men to women is significantly higher than the ratio of women to men. Can you confirm or deny that?
I think that was the case previously. I think that that's changing a lot as women who want to pursue a more athletic life and a more outdoorsy life, as that's becoming more normalized. And valleys like this are attracting women more. And also, I would say this was probably a place that, if you were a laborer, a construction worker, or you could, put gravel down on a driveway, mail work. There was a lot of work for you here.
Sure.
But now that we're turning into a world with more work from home and digital jobs, more women are able to come here and find work. Because, that is often the problem with a valley like this, is how are you going to make a living?
Yeah, no, and you're hitting on exactly what I was asking you to hit on, which is, in my opinion, it has been like the valley has been dominated by mostly men, because the type of women who want to move to the mountain where it's cold and the weather is kind of harsh, and your nails are going to get broken, and the things that tend to make like mountain men in historically have deterred mountain women from wanting to come, or maybe regular women from wanting to come and leaving it for just the mountain women. And now, like you were pointing out, between remote jobs, between COVID and people fleeing the cities and coming to more remote places like Aspen, I think that you're finding that there is an increase in the eligible single female population that didn't used to be here, that is now here, because they're able to do both, work and enjoy the outdoor activities that mountain women tend to gravitate to these towns for.
Yeah, and I would also say that Aspen is something of an exception, because it's not Netherlands. I have friends in Ned, and those girls are tomboys. But you can be a pretty girly girl and move to Aspen and work at Kimasabe and have a great wardrobe and, go. You can be a girl who loves makeup and clothes and have a collection of high heels in Aspen in a way that I think is very difficult in other Colorado mountain towns.
Absolutely. And that's what now you're talking about is one of the main reasons I chose Aspen and why I continue to live in Aspen, as opposed to the myriad of mountain towns that are out there, whether it's Jackson Hole or Crested Butte or Sun Valley. One of the reasons I love Aspen so much is because it has all of these amenities. It has all these other options that I've lived in several other small mountain towns that didn't have anything close to what Aspen's offering.
Yeah.
And that is a big draw. That is a big attraction to why somebody would want to live anywhere up and down this valley.
For me, I really love Aspen. I've spent a lot of time in Telluride, and I really ended up, when I discovered Aspen, I felt like the world had opened for me. And it's not to say that there isn't an occasional good show that comes through the Sheridan Opera House in Telluride. There is. But what I discovered here was world-class arts. The theater, the classical music, the art galleries. It was just mind-blowing for me that I could have world-class arts and go fly fishing.
And again, you're speaking my language here. So part of the reason that I ended up staying, I've been here for 10 years, and part of the reason that I've stayed here for as long as I have is the belly up.
I love it.
When I was traveling, I realized pretty quickly that America does two things, in my opinion, better than the rest of the world. The first is Mexican food.
Oh, I wonder how the Mexicans feel
So,
about
well,
that.
even in authentic Mexico, I feel like does Mexican food as well as the southwestern part of the United States.
I love Tex-Mex. I love
So,
Tex-Mex.
yeah,
And I
exactly,
love
exactly.
we have fabulous Mexican food in this valley.
We sure do.
I go to them all.
There's a lot. Oh, really?
I
At
like
the
them
mall?
all. I think
Down in Glenwood?
I go to in Glenwood. I like Frida's. I haven't done tequilas in Glenwood. I do go to Frida's sometimes. I love El Corrida. I love Jalisco. I mean, I love Los Montañas. It's a little more Tex-Mex and a little more upscale, but if it's Mexican food, I want to go eat it.
All right. Well, I'm in too. That's definitely speaking my language right there. The Espanol. But yeah, so Mexican food and then live music. I find is the other thing that America just does better than the whole rest of the world.
So well, so well.
And the fact is that if you are a big band from another country, you're trying to make it into America to tour this country.
For sure.
Because that's where you make all your money.
Yeah.
So when I found that Aspen had the belly up in addition to world-class skiing, world-class is the word. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just art, right? It's not just your local high school play.
Right.
It's the Santa Fe Ballet.
Yes, the contemporary dance here is incredible.
And it's like, between our art galleries, the art museum, the various theaters, the Wheeler Opera House, the Theater Aspen, we have some of the best art and artists in the world coming here to show off.
I saw Beautiful, the Carole King musical, in the West End of London, and then I saw the Theater Aspen performance of it. And I liked the Theater Aspen performance of it better. And that's not the first time, because I'm kind of a Broadway nerd, and I go to New York City where my mother lives, and go to a lot of Broadway. And then I often will see the same show here. And it'll maybe have a little bit of a different flavor, but I'll like the performance just as much. None of this, by the way, is about dating. We've gotten off on our Aspen Love Fest, but I am in a love fest with Aspen, and it sounds like you are too. And I also adore going to the Belly Up from silly cover bands that are just a good time and a real hoot to really interesting new contemporary artists.
Yeah, we're very blessed to live here in this valley with all of the world-class art that we have coming to us. And for me, it is a big draw. And kind of circling back to what we were initially talking about as far as the ratios of men to women here in the valley, and your ability to help pair those people up. And I think it's a little bit uplifting as a single guy to know that there are more women in the valley than there once were.
Definitely.
And that there is a hope for me to maybe potentially be paired up with one of these amazing women.
Yeah.
Because there are more of them.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Well, let's just dip into your past a little bit. I recall reading in the article in the Times that part of the reason you came to Aspen was because you were invited on a date.
Correct.
And that brought you over here. While it didn't work out with the guy, you ended up finding your home.
It's exactly what happened. We're still in touch. That was about, that was 10 or so years, 9 years ago, I think. No. Yes, it was about 9 years ago. I had just started my matchmaking business. I ended up on a date on, I forget whether it was Bumble or Tinder. We went on a date, and it was an odd date because he showed up on the date and he mostly just told me about how much he wanted his ex-wife back and showed me the letter that he was writing her to try to get her back. I felt so badly for this guy, but there was something quite likable about him. And at the time I was over in Telluride, and he told me he had lived in Aspen or in a place called Woody Creek I had never heard of. And I said, why don't you come over to Telluride just for the weekend, just as friends? We'll go hiking, we'll get pizzas, and we'll just hang out. You could use a break, I think. So he came over, we had a nice platonic weekend, and then he said, well, why don't you come over and see where I live? And so I came over, and he showed me this valley, and I ended up staying a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, like I said, it was like I had discovered this door had opened that had everything in it. Now, it was I would no longer do what I did with him, which I think I would describe in modern terms as a situationship. Something that I am fully against, but in the moment that we crossed, that's what happened. But I did discover my home through this date,
Mm-hmm.
through a Tinder date.
Mm-hmm. So that's neat. So that then leads my mind to thinking, you have experience using these apps, these dating apps that often leave people unfulfilled and looking for more,
Yes.
even though the carrot of love is being dangled in front of them.
Yeah. Well, remember with these apps, when you read their reports, they never mention the word marriage or relationship. These apps are media companies, and their goal is not to get you married.
Sure.
Their goal is to attract as many eyeballs as possible so that they can up their advertising sales. The only reason they ever want to get someone married is so that they can point the finger and say, look, we did it.
Right.
But that's not really what the boards are after.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And by the way, Whitney lives here, who owns Bumble, so if you're listening to me, call me, let's meet. But in any case, it's important to remember that the apps, their investment is not necessarily to find you love.
Right.
But like anything else, I think they can be effective. And I think if you're smart with the apps, you can pull good candidates off of them and meet interesting people.
Well, let's hope. I mean, I'm on them, so let's hope so.
Yes, I'm on them too. I'm the matchmaker. It happens to be on them too. I actually have, not only did I find Aspen, I've made some incredible friends over the years that I've been on the apps. But they are a lot of work.
Yeah. That's my experience as well. And I feel like what you're speaking to, I personally resonate with. I think most people listening would resonate with, which is that they're not designed to get you into a relationship where you end up being married, because then you get off the app. And you want as many people scrolling and swiping and looking at their app as they can get. Like you said, it's more of a media company than it is a matchmaking company, which comes back to you and your services and what you're up to. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned just briefly when you were talking about people on the apps, like what is a good, let's just say, give my audience some good advice for what should they be doing on their apps to try to improve their apps? How do they present themselves as somebody who is potentially dateable or likable? What are you finding is, maybe some standard operating procedures to get yourself a date, with the exception of paying for you and your services? How does somebody do this on their own?
So first of all, I want to say people in finance talk about multiple streams of incomes, and I believe in multiple streams of dates. So I say be on an app or two, but you have to do other things too. So I'm going to answer your question in two parts. As far as increasing your odds on the app, some things I would recommend that you do. First, if you can afford it, I'd really pony up to some professional pictures. I have a photographer I use here in the Valley who is he just knows how to capture an essence, and he makes people look wonderful. There's several photographers here who do that. So you could look for a photographer here in the Valley. It's going to cost you $400, $500, $600, but these pictures should be good for I would say you could use them for 2 to 3 years, unless something happens, like your hair color really dramatically changes. I think 2-year-old or 3-year-old pictures are probably okay. 10-year-old pictures, not so much. So I would say probably go in for some great professional pictures and tell the photographer, hey, I want photographs that make me look, that capture me and show me in my natural environment, like maybe I'm playing my guitar, maybe I'm wearing my fly fishing waders, but I also want them to read, come have dinner with me. They should feel warm and inviting. If you're a woman, I would say smile in every picture. If you're a guy, maybe you could throw in 1 or 2 kind of like I'm a manly man expression, but they should be warm and inviting. You want somebody to look at those photographs and go, I'd like to sit down and have a drink with that right there. So I would say that. I would say avoid negativity in your profile. And you sometimes see all these profiles that are like, I don't like, and then they list all the things. Or remember that in those 5 sentences or whatever that you have, that's your real estate. What are you going to do with your real estate? And I'm shocked at how people will use their real estate. They will use it to knock on the other gender. They will use it to, kind of go into their trauma or whatever it is. I'm like, that's just not good use of your real estate.
Sure.
Just get smart.
Sure.
Make it positive, make it interesting. Don't say the same joke that I've read 10 that sometimes you think you're being funny, but I've read that joke 5,000 times now. And I've seen this, be original. So I would say those are a couple of ways to start with your app. And then I would say about your parameters, that's really a big deal. If you're a guy and you're just looking for women, 10 to 25 years younger, you're going to have a much lower response rate. And if you're a woman and you're just looking for guys 6'2" and over, you're going to have a much lower response rate. You kind of got to get real. When you look at real data in America, I believe it's less than 14% of American males are over 6 feet tall. And also about women and what they look like. The average American female body right now, and I know we're living in Aspen where everybody's practically an Olympian athlete here, but remember that the average American female body is a size 16. That's a bigger girl. So if you're expecting every girl to look like, I'm Gen X and I grew up with the show called Friends, that kind of said, what girls next door look like? Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox. I got news for you. They don't look like that. So you need to maybe work on what your expectations are, and also work on what you think you can find beautiful.
Ooh, this is great advice. It reminds me, when I was growing up, my dad is sort of my guru and my counselor and the guy that I go to with all my personal problems. And as a younger man growing up, I found myself struggling to find partners to date. And I went to my dad and I sort of confided in him some of my issues and struggles. And I was telling him, I don't want to lower my standards. I don't want to lower my standards. How do I attract more women without lowering my standards? My dad's a professional writer. He's a wordsmith.
Okay.
He's a master communicator.
Okay.
And so he heard me and he said, Landon, don't lower your standards, broaden them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I would also say, what is standards, right? So I would say, never lower your standard that somebody should treat you with kindness. Never lower your standard that you matter as much as the other person in the relationship, and that it should be a teammate with equal partners whose needs, wants, and desires matter equally. But if your standard is, I should date someone who looks like they belong on the cover of a magazine, is that a standard, or is that have you been a guinea pig to too much media exposure?
Yeah, well, and that's, I think, partly what I was dealing with was, in my mind, I had some vision, some standard that I should be receiving or the recipient of, and I wasn't the recipient of it, and that led me to just being frustrated with my situation. And so when my dad coined or termed the
broaden your standards.
Yeah. And I was like, that's such a funny way to say it, because essentially you're saying the same thing. I'm not lowering my standards. I'm opening up the gate from which the pool is coming through.
Right.
And so, in a weird way, it is kind of lowering your standards, but not really. It was a much easier term for me to accept as far as, don't lower them, broaden them.
Right.
Allow for more recipients, more candidates to be in consideration.
And start to prioritize what matters. I mean, look, I do this for a living and I have for 10 years. So a lot of times I think here's how people date. They meet another person. First thing they do, body check. Body check, neck down. How's the body? Do I like the body? Then if I like the body, neck up, face check. Maybe it shouldn't begin with body check. Maybe it should begin with character check. Think about the revolution that you could have if you started saying, what really matters to me is somebody, when my parents died and I am in grief, who do I want to wake up next to? Is it a beautiful object to look at? Or is it somebody who knows how to hold profound emotional space for me?
Wow, now we're getting deep into it, and I've got a lot more questions here. So yeah, as we kind of near towards the end of the show here, let's just drill down into a little bit about what is it like to hire you for your services. Walk me, if I'm a single guy and I'm looking for love and I want to be paired up with my perfect partner and you're the lady to help me do that, where do I begin? Walk me through what that process looks like and then what sort of results I could potentially expect from hiring Gaby at KIS.
Right. So I will just be really blatantly honest right here. I do run a business, and so it isn't. There are some people out there who love to matchmake for fun. This is how I survive. So it's my business. It's expensive.
Yeah.
I tell people it's a luxury service. So the people who hire me are typically the same type of people in the financial bracket who have luxury services and luxury goods as a general rule.
Okay.
Those are the people on my client list. The other people can just go into my database for free. And I may end up pulling the profile out either to meet one of my clients, or I may end up sending the profile to another matchmaker. I work with an alliance of about 150 other matchmakers around the world. And they are often calling me saying, hey, my client is heading to Colorado and I'm wondering if you've got anyone in your database who, loves mountain biking and cooking or whatever. And so I may end up pulling somebody out. But to get on my client list such that, I am working for you entails first an interview with me to make sure that we're a good fit to work together and that your expectations and my ability to provide are in line. Then they usually pay me. And then what ends up happening is I create a beautiful profile of them with professional photographs. I'm happy, by the way, if anyone wants to see, I have a whole thing I send to people about how to do their photographs, what you want to do when you get your photographs done. And I'm happy to share that with anyone who's interested in it. It's how I have my own clients do their photographs.
Oh, great. That's insightful.
Oh, yeah, I can send it to you too. And if anyone wants it, you can definitely follow it if you're going to get some pictures to put up on dating apps. And then I start looking for the candidate, of what, it's a little bit of a Venn diagram of what that person asks me for and what I think they should meet.
Okay. All right.
So I can't give them something necessarily totally off what they're asking for, but sometimes what they think that they want has been not working for them for an awfully long time. And it's partly my job to say, let's try this.
I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. So, Gaby, I think we're kind of nearing the end of the show. Do you want to stick around to do one more episode?
I'm more than happy to do so if you'd like to do so.
All right, let's do one more.
Okay.
I'm going to end this one for now, and then we'll go ahead and start up a second one here. Because I've got some more questions for the matchmaker here, Gaby Aratow. We're going to wrap this episode, but before we do, we'll do this twice. Why don't you let the people know where they can find you, where they can find your services, then we'll end this episode and we'll start another one and we can keep talking.
The best way to find me is to go to my website, Keeper Intros, KEEPERINTROS.com. And there you'll see a little button that says join our database. You can simply enter my database if you like. There's also my email and my phone number on my website, as well as a little information about me. So that's probably a good place to go.
That's a great place to go. Hit them one more time with it.
Keeper Intros.
KeeperIntros.com.
Correct.
KeeperIntros.com for all your matchmaking needs. Gaby Aratow, thanks for coming on the show. We'll be right back with another episode.
Let's see here. How do I stop you?